So, good afternoon and welcome to this session using InterSystems Reports for Insight. My name is Michael Braam. I'm a senior sales engineer at InterSystems in Germany. And I have a bad news and a good news for you. So the bad news is I'm the one between you and the drinks, that demo and drinks. And the good news is the session is only 20 minutes long. So in this session you will hear a real request our partner BPM Consult AG in Switzerland received from their customer base, and what they did to solve the problem and how they leveraged InterSystems Reports to add value to their solutions and to provide benefits to their customers. But before we take a look at the use case, let me briefly introduce who is BPM Consult AG. Then we will take a look into the use case, talk about the solution BPM built, which benefits did they receive, which benefits receive the customers of BPM, and of course in such a complex project there are always lessons that need to be learned. And we will close with the Q&A part. And for the Q&A part I will be happy to welcome Martin Probst. Martin Probst is CEO at BPM in Switzerland. He will support me, because he can certainly better answer all the questions than I. So, who is BPM? BPM is an IT partner for the book industry in Switzerland for over 30 years. And they are a long-term InterSystems partner for more than 20 years now. And BPM develops and maintains a solution suite which is called BPM Solutions since 2001, and it consists of two parts. The first one is Beeline Bookstore, which is basically an ERP system, and the second part is Beeline Web, which is an e-commerce solution. And 85% of BPM is held by Schweizer Genossenschaft Buchzentrum. This is basically an association or cooperative of book resellers. And the remaining 15% are held by the BPM management. And BPM is market leader in Switzerland and Luxembourg and has leading customers in Austria and Germany. So, what was the use case? Well, the BPM customers came to BPM and said, we need more insight. We need more insight. How are our numbers? How are the sales figures? How are our stock levels? So that we can derive action from that numbers. And our wish is that it is implemented as a self-service portal. And of course, the data should be current. We have no interest in building a separate data warehouse and maintaining this data warehouse. And that was a challenge. And what BPM did is they start to think about the project and considered InterSystems Reports and came to the conclusion that this is probably a good fit or a perfect fit. And then they start to build it. And what they did is, in the first step, they built InterSystems Reports catalogs. What is a catalog? A catalog is basically a collection of data sources. And a data source is a definition where you get the data from. Data source definition. And on top of these data source definitions, or on top of these data, they build so-called business views. And a business view is more a business-like view to the transactional data. So you don't have to deal with the relational model, with the transactional data model. So this transactional data model is projected as hierarchies, as dimensions, as measures. It can have meaningful names. And on top of these data catalog or reports catalog, and on top of these business views, they start to build web reports. And a web report is one type of supported reports with InterSystems Reports. Basically, a web report is an interactive web page which allows you to apply filters to the data, multiple filters, in an interactive fashion, which allows to drill in your report. And the customer requested that it should be available as a self-service portal. And with these interactive web reports, this seems to be feasible. But they did a step further. They embedded these web reports as iframes in the e-commerce solution in Beeline Web. And that allowed dynamic filtering using multiple filters, drilling into the web reports, etc. Security, of course, is another request. The Beeline users are not interested in multiple logging into the Beeline web application, into the web reports. So BPM had the need to implement it SSO, single sign-on, for authentication here. And that's what they did. So the user logs in once into the Beeline web application, and this authentication is used to log into the web reports as well. And this authentication is also the basis for the authorization. A certain user should only see the reports and the data he's authorized for. And this is all based on the SSO implemented by BPM here. How does it look? What you see here is a screenshot, and I apologize for the German language here, but BPM's business is mainly in the German-speaking countries in Europe. But I think you can get the idea. So at the top, you see the header of the Beeline web application. And below the header, you see the embedded iframe with the web report, dashboard in this case. So you have indicators which represent a trend in your sales figures. You here see hit lists with top 10 customers from the previous day, or top 10 book titles of the previous day, etc. So that's the dashboard where you can see your numbers at the first glance. And then BPM implemented a kind of tabs or toolbar at the top of the web report where you can navigate to different reports. So the next report, for example, is a stock level report, so that the user can see if a stock level, for example, decreases faster than expected. And if a stock level for a certain book title decreases faster than expected, that can trigger an action in their business processes. They can simply start printing more books of that book title. And that was what the customer requested. They want to be able to derive action from the analytics, from their reporting. Or a revenue web report. So that's what BPM did, embedded the web report pages as iframes into the Beeline web solution. What are the benefits for both BPM and the BPM customers? Benefits for BPM are the InterSystems Reports license is included in all user-based and advanced InterSystems IRIS licenses. So there are no extra costs for BPM and for the end users. Very important, I think, same support infrastructure. Whenever BPM experiences an issue, either with InterSystems IRIS or with InterSystems Reports, they can contact our WRC and get help from that. If you deal with great amount of data, which you typically do if you talk about reporting and analytics, then of course speed and scalability of the underlying data platform is crucial. So they can leverage from the speed and scalability of InterSystems IRIS here. And this all gave BPM the ability to respond to their customer requirements. But the BPM customers also receive benefits from these solutions. They have current data for real-time analytics. That's what they want. They don't want to build an extra data warehouse and to main that. They got their self-service interactive dashboards, and they can drive their business processes with the analytics. That's exactly what they are looking for. Nevertheless, in such complex projects, there are always lessons that need to be learned. And it was the same here. What were the lessons? Well, if you work with large amounts of data and apply analytical queries to them, which are in some kind different than transactional queries, you probably have to do some work here. For example, analytical queries do a lot of aggregation, do a lot of grouping, do a lot of filtering. That's probably different from simple transactional queries. So they had the need to add some indices, to optimize some queries maybe, build some stored procedures, etc. So if you plan to go in such a project, allow time for testing. Test with your real data, with production data, not with simple test data. And of course, InterSystems Reports, which is based on Logi reports, is a complex and comprehensive product. So it requires a learning curve, it requires some training effort. Allow time for this. This is important. No? And BPM could resolve all the problems they were faced with their good due to the good collaboration between BPM, InterSystems, and Logi, which is an inside software company. I think Martin, you can later in the Q&A session hopefully can confirm that. So where can you get more information about InterSystems Reports? Of course, here at Global Summit. Partner Pavilion Inside Software is here, so you can talk with the people from Logi. Tech Exchange provides some presentations or schedule a meeting with an expert, or, contact the product manager. Carmen Loke is the product manager for InterSystems Reports at InterSystems. So if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact Carmen. That's so far from my side. It's time for Q&A. Any questions so far from your side? Okay, Martin, please welcome with me Martin Probst from BPM, CEO.
You can use a custom query, which you can write on your own code. So you're able to implement any code you want to use.
Yeah.
So those custom queries are fetched
So
real time, and you can create new indexes, kind of like a queue with them.
you can always create new indices to classes or tables, even at runtime. So there's no need to shut down the system or the application to add a new index. What Martin means is that you can, by implementing custom queries, which basically can access data from globals directly and project them as a stored procedure, you can use this stored procedure in Logi reports. So there are a lot of different ways to get the performance you need.
You know, a lot of work is done within Logi, within InterSystems Reports, because the data is just initially gathered in InterSystems IRIS, and then it's processed inside Logi reports.
Other questions?
I had a question about security and SSO you talked about. I know there's some security built into Logi reports and some in IRIS, obviously. Did you use both of those, or how did you get yourself out?
We used both of them, yeah.
The question was about security. There is a security system in IRIS, and there's a security system in Logi Reports or InterSystems Reports. And the question was, did they use both of them, or how do they implement the security?
Yeah, we used both of them. And the SSO part is just a couple of Java code lines which you use to log into InterSystems Reports. It's pretty straightforward. They have examples for that. It's pretty simple code.
There was a question in the back.
The report presents itself in an iframe. So how do you get it from the iframe to paper, and how identical is it from the iframe to paper?
You can export any report into a PDF, into Excel as well, but we really want to use it as a web application, and usually the user doesn't want to export it as onto paper. But you could use that. You can export it as PDF. Logi or the InterSystems Reports can be perfect use to produce some print reports.
Do you do anything with multi-page documents like invoicing that
No.
produce lots of?
About multi-page reports, I mentioned that web reports is one type of report supported by InterSystems Reports. Another type are the page reports, and the page reports do exactly what you mean.
Your question might be a good way to introduce Leo from Logi, which can answer your question in a perfect manner, because that's what you usually do, or?
Hello, everyone. My name is Leo Zhao, come from Inside Software, and partner with InterSystems for a very long time. About your questions, basically, yeah, from the InterSystems Reports point of view, which is the Logi report, we can cover like those kind of dashboard style type of data visualization on screen. We also cover those kind of we call pixel perfect type of report for multi-pagination style, and especially like sometimes if you want to combine both. In the single application, that's like a kind of like a sweet spot, which from the web report point of view, you can consider to make it like a full visualization on screen, give a full interactive activity to the customer, but also when they narrow down to more like operational transactional style type of report, like invoice, as you mentioned earlier, quotation, maybe like a statement, like all those kind of like a multi-paging style type of report, especially sometimes even you want to do more advanced different pagination in a single report, right? For example, certain pages go into the standard portrait and then suddenly go into a specific page going to the landscape and then come back, right? Even do the different page size by different pages in the single report. Those are all like a standard pagination type of features we can cover in Logi report. Yeah.
So I've got one last question. Why would I use this over Zen Reports?
That's a good question.
Okay, if you have, well, the Zen reports are deprecated. This was published at the developer community. So Zen reports don't have a future. Don't rely in the future on Zen reports. Replace them with something else. And I think Logi reports or InterSystems reports provides a lot of more. There is an interactive WYSIWYG report builder. Zen reports always had only the back end, no visual report building, nothing. And the knockout criteria is the deprecation of Zen reports. Get rid of it.
By the way, that was a mistake. Just putting that out there. In my opinion, that was a mistake.
Talk to our product management. Yeah.
Still a very viable product.
Yeah. Talk to our product management. They are all around here.
Yeah,
That's a good chance.
I just have a quick question. In your data catalog, what type of connections you use to
Can you repeat the question?
What type of connections are used to access the data? Yeah.
JDBC. Yeah.
But JDBC is only one option. There are other options.
Yeah.
It goes back to this question, the Zen report, that you have to use connections, but now we've had issues with the JDB connection and different versions of IRIS and cache
I was in a session from Stefan Wittmann this afternoon, who is product manager responsible for all the data bindings or client bindings. And he mentioned in a session that the build process has changed and that the client components, JDBC driver, ODBC driver, are built independently from a specific IRIS build. So in the future, this should not happen, that you have a JDBC driver that does not, in the past they were specific for a particular IRIS build, but that has changed. Any other question?
So when you create this report, do you have to put your data in a different class or whatever, or you can create it off the classes you already have?
You can create it off the class you already have.
Did you have a hard time learning the report functionality to make the report?
Yeah, it was a hard time because it's a very powerful application. It's a very powerful tool you can use. So there's a learning curve there.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, we are running out of time, but one last question, Martin. In one of my first slides, I said it's probably a good fit or a perfect fit. Looking back now to the project, would you still confirm that?
Yeah, sure. It's a good fit. Especially, I like the attitude of Logi. We had a lot of contact with them, and they were very open to our issues. They accepted all our enhancement requests. They're very open to improve the product, which I really appreciated. And I think it's a good fit, a perfect fit, InterSystems and Logi together. So for me, yeah, I would do it again.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if you have further questions, I will be around for the rest of the conference. Martin will be here and Leo as well. So reach out to us if you have any questions. We will be happy to help you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference and enjoy the evening with demos and drinks. Thank you.